Good morning, CLC. Welcome to another lovely Sunday. I hope you've had an awesome week. I hope you're ready for this great message, and I hope it revitalizes you and rejuvenates you for the week to come. So with that, I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now, in this moment, I invite you to take a few deep breaths. Breathe in the cool, calm air. And as you release it, let go of all that no longer serves you. Allow your body and your mind to just relax. Let any tension just ease away right now. If you're so inclined, you can close your eyes and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by stating aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I am willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present with me in the room this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present or virtually on this broadcast, and share in gratitude and confidence in saying, I am grateful for the good in your life.
Good morning, Creative Life. I told you last week how I was sitting there getting ready to give last week's talk, and this week's talk came into my head. So I wrote down a thought, one word, for today. As we wrap up this series on spiritual practice and start next week another series on spiritual practice. Next month's series will be called a 5-step action plan. Guess what the 5 steps are? Some of you know. We're going to go through each of the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment, take it down to its essence, you know. But the word that I wrote down last week that I wanted to wrap up this month's series with was awe. A-W-E. This, to me, is about the highest spiritual consciousness you can have on this planet. You take forgiveness is a process. You take gratitude, it's a process. Manifestation is a process. These are all parts of the work that we do. But the end game is awe. The end game is astonishment. What good is manifestation if it doesn't bring you awe? What good is clearing out your psychological issues, baggage they call it? Lately I saw it called luggage. You know, they used to say, well, we have psychological baggage. Now it's luggage. Maybe it's a matching set. We have a matching set of issues. Isn't that nice? Little wheels on them, you know. But what good is it to clear all that out if there's not a resulting sense of just joy in life? And yet joy is kind of vague, and joy is hard to maintain. Joy is a fast burn, you know what I mean? To stay in joy all the time. That's a big ask of people, and I know that we ask a lot in this teaching. I'll more on that in a minute. But awe we can do. Amazement we can do. Astonishment we can do at the world. I drove through springtime this morning. So did the others with me in this room. If you've been out in the last several days, weeks, or month, you've experienced some springtime. It is an awesome thing. We take pictures. Lisa takes pictures of the springtime here in the garden. We talk about the springtime every week. We give you, I give you a report on like what has grown, what we've walked past, what's opened now. You know, we had a big day when the pecan trees open and the azaleas are doing well. And lately, though not on this property that I know of, but lately, jasmine. Jasmine is blooming. It is so springtime at night when jasmine blooms, okay? That's amazing. That's astonishing. And yet you get to a point sometimes where you say, I've been through a lot of these. I've had a lot of springtimes, you know. Some of us of a certain age, we're like, well, you know, I remember the springtime of 77. Now, that was a nice spring. You know, it's all, right? Everything's compared to something else. Well, the music these days, it's all right, but the best music was done, you know, 50 years ago, and the best this and the best that. And you know what they were saying 50 years ago? That the best music had been done 50 years before that, and the best, right? It's just a generational thing. Where I'm going with this is, actually the title of this talk is Spirituality Without Morbidity. But that sounded kind of dry, so I thought I'd, you know, spice it up for you a little. The whole idea here is that this is not a teaching that pathologizes life, as we often say. It doesn't pathologize the human condition or the earthly condition. This is a teaching of joy. We have moments of deep concern. Wednesday night was one. Soul sessions tend to be, where on this stage we discuss very serious issues, human baggage, old stories that no longer work, and the pain that they've caused. And we do not minimize that at all. But that's not the extent of our spiritual work. In spiritual work, you need a home base. And for some people, the home base is the Bible, and for some people, the home base is Jesus, and for some it's the Quran, and for some it's Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, which is what Reverend Miyoki chants as a Nichiren Buddhist. The opening of the lotus flower opens to reveal the perfect operation of the law of cause and effect. I hope she's all right with that approximate translation. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo is the spiritual home base. In this teaching, we don't say those home bases are phony or don't work. We say they work because behind them is a oneness, an inseparable connection that each one of us has with the source of our own being, that we then articulate in our own way. We take it where we will. We perceive life. I think it was Anais Nin that said, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. We see things as we are. So we look out at the world through our own spiritual psychology. Yet back of our spiritual psychology is something that has never suffered, that has never known anything but peace, harmony, true harmony, joy, true joy. And we touch base with that. And then we go out into the world. So what you do with a home base, you don't just sit there. You have a home base, you touch base with it, and then you go out into the world. And you face racism. And you face homophobia. And sexism. And these different collective issues that we have as a society. And in our individual lives, we face sickness. And we face our work and our money, and when it sometimes looks like it's running out, or our work when it changes, and we face parenting, and we face being a child of aging parents, and we face all of the issues that you know that you face. And in the last year, guess what we've had? That we've all gotten to face in our own way. But we scurry back to home base to be reminded of the joy and the harmony and the peace, so that we can emerge out into the world, deal with situations, and still maintain a spirit of awe and amazement, which is what I think Jesus meant when he talked about that you must become as a little child to enter into the kingdom of heaven. He was talking about a state of consciousness. Even the Pope says that heaven is a state of consciousness. Hell likewise, to the reverse, you know. But the state of consciousness of heaven. You must become as a little child. What is a little child like? Well, in the reference that he's making, naive. So I argue for naivete. I argue for an unlearning, an unburdening of the self, of the information that we have that life is hard, and here's who's to blame for it being hard, and here's how long it's been hard, and here's how long we can expect it, and on and on and on. All the stuff that weighs us down in our spiritual practice. You got to have an end game in mind of how would you have it be if it could be any way at all. This is how we heal the issues of the world. How would it be? How would it be? You know, we say all the time we're one human family. That's kind of obvious, you know. There's this, where is it now? Oh, over here. You see, one, that's where we all are right now, okay? Well, except the International Space Station is up there too, but you know, they came from here, right? So everybody's here, everybody's on the world, it's one human family. But it doesn't feel like one human family. It doesn't feel like it. It feels tribal sometimes. So I want to go to the mind that knows only one and be reminded of what could be, and then carry as much of that in me as I can back into everyday life so that I can unlearn some of the defense mechanisms and things that I may have put up about dealing with troublesome people in a tribal sort of world. So go back to the source. Be reminded. What does the source say to you? Says things, I mean, the Bible has some of these things in it, as the ancients heard them through their own listening, their own consciousnesses. Things like, come unto me, ye who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. You know, you are my beloved child in whom I am well pleased. That's biblical for you, but it says to you what you want to hear. It says to you what you want to know is the truth of your own being. It says basically, I am, and that you are that I am. And that's the kind of amazement to walk around the world in. Now, I know it's tough, and that's why I mentioned naivete. You know, people ask, and somebody asked, I think in the chat on Wednesday night, and I've heard this a lot, and especially a lot lately, what can I do to stay positive in the midst of all this? What can I do to stay positive in the midst of all of this? Have a plan. That's what you can do. You can have a plan. You can have a plan for what you're going to do. You got all kinds of plans for negative stuff, don't you? Most of us do. You remember back in the day here on the paper grocery sacks, they used to have a hurricane map that you could follow with a pencil, you know, before we had phones with apps and all of this sort of thing. It had a list of all of the things that you're going to need. You live on the Gulf Coast, you have a hurricane plan. You know, you might have a fire plan. You have an escape plan in the house. You've got all kinds of plans. You've got stuff in the car in case the tire goes flat or the battery goes dead. You've got all kinds of plans. You've got insurance probably, if you can afford it. You know, you've got all kinds of like fail-safe systems and stuff in case something goes wrong. You have a plan for what goes right. You got to have a plan. To maintain the positivity, you got to have a plan. You can't just read the paper, and I realize few read papers anymore, but it's, you know, it's a thing, right? You know what I mean. You can't just read the paper. I like them. You get all kind of filthy, you know, and stuff. But you can't just read the news and expect to feel positive. You know, you can't just. You need a plan for somewhere to go to touch home base, to have a sense of yes, to have a sense of astonishment and awe come over you. And it's everywhere. It's not just springtime. Maybe you don't like nature. People say, I don't like nature. I have allergies. You know, I sneeze all day. Get out of it. It's not just springtime. There's amazement and awe everywhere. The Oscars are on tonight. Stretch your imagination. Have you seen any of these movies? You know, I think my favorite is Godzilla versus Kong. I haven't seen it, but it sounds fun. I don't know if it's going to win any awards, but, you know. I saw on TV, Pepsi has come out with blueberry Pepsi. My first thought was, ugh. And then I had to step back, and I thought about, there's a saying that will be familiar to some of you from another setting called, contempt prior to investigation. You heard of contempt prior? Have you been good at contempt prior to investigation? I have. Because we think it makes us funny, makes us clever. People want to be around us when we have contempt prior to investigation. And we can just pick holes in all sorts of things. You know what? And every time we practice that, it makes us a little sadder, and it makes us a little older. And we kind of hunch over every time. It hurts the heart, this contempt. I'm going to try blueberry Pepsi. I may try it on camera. I don't know. I don't know if that would cross certain lines or something. Pull down the video, but maybe that doesn't do it for you. Maybe that's not amazing and awesome enough. But it's a symbol, this kind of stuff that's around us. And then, I can't say that I really got worked up over those two, but I thought they were kind of cute. But here's one I did. Here's one I did. How shall I put this? Well, I'll put it this way. I'll describe to you the feeling I had, and then I'll tell you why I had it and see if you have it too. And some of this may be suggestion, having gone there. You know that feeling you get at the back of your neck where the hairs stand up, and it's a good thing in a good way, not like freaked out, but like this is, God is in the room kind of feeling. You know what I'm saying? The Mars rover, there's a rover thing on Mars. Perseverance, it's called. And Perseverance has attached to its underside Ingenuity. Ingenuity is a little bitty helicopter. I don't know how I'm doing like this, but it's 4 pounds, I think, is all the helicopter is. They launched it the other day. It's the first time flight has been initiated using a motor on another world. And on one of the rotors of the little Ingenuity helicopter is a tiny piece of fabric attached from the Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers plane, in 1903. I just got it again. I just got it again. About less than 20 years after the Wright brothers plane, flight was happening all over the place. 24 years Charles Lindbergh flew to Europe solo. That's all how long. In our modern era, we talk about how fast computers, it's only been 30, 40 years since, 50 years since they had punch card computers, and now look, and now look, and now look. But it's always been like that. Stuff has always come galloping along. That's amazing. That's amazing to me. And I know nothing about it. I don't know how to make that happen. Part of me sitting there and I'm saying they can fly this thing to Mars and have the little helicopter detach and fly up. And there are parts of your house and mine where you can't even get Wi-Fi. So I don't know how on earth somebody sitting there with game controllers at NASA is making this happen. I don't know how they got us to the moon back in '69. It just boggles the mind, but it's amazing. And the moon has come up a lot lately in these talks. We had the new moon most recently. We had the lunar holidays. We had the Lunar New Year initially. And tomorrow night we have the full blood moon. It's one of 2 super moons this year. The next one's going to be in May. And it's where the moon is at perigee. I think it's perigee. Yeah, perigee to the earth, closest to the earth. Is it apogee? Okay, not perigee. You don't want perigee. You want apogee. If you can get apogee, you want apogee. This is closest to the earth. Got a scientist in the room. Got it. Fact checking. It's good. Maybe he's wrong. Now he's not sure. See, we'll come back to it. But I know I've said this before on other occasions, but go out and look at the moon tomorrow night. About 10:30, it's at fullness, peak fullness, in our time zone. Go look at the moon through your ancestors' eyes. Go look at the moon not as somebody who lives in a culture that has been there multiple times and is continuing to go there and send things there and stuff, but see it through your ancestors' eyes. See it as a goddess, you know.
Perigee is closest.
Perigee, I was right?
You were right.
Whoa, yes. But go see it through these eyes of a child. And you can do that because you long for that. One more thing. A question that comes up, and I think we're going to talk about this Thursday night with the Temple of Light folks in Jamaica. In some way or other. But a question that comes up is, how can I move all of this science of mind stuff from my head to my heart? And my answer is not being glib, but really as truthfully as I can. I want to tell you, it started in your heart. It started in your heart. And then you found an explanation that lodged in your head for what was going on in your heart, but it was happening in your heart first. And don't let the explanation in your head, do not let the explanation in your head crowd out what's in your heart. Don't let it over-explain stuff so much that you lose the spontaneity and the naivete and the post-critical naivete that Marcus Borg speaks about. And some of you will remember that because in our Bible wisdom class, we read his book, one of his books, where he talks about post-critical naivete. You know what that means? See, you start out naive, like a little kid, like an actual little kid. You don't know stuff. And it's all happening and it's all new, and then you get clever and wise and you figured it out, and this is how the world works. And then we tend to get a little jaded. We tend to get a little cynical. Things don't work out. Love is not all it's cracked up to be, you know. The world of, well, just being a grown-up isn't all that. There are bills to pay, and there's, you know, I don't have to tell you, grown-ups watching, all of this stuff that you felt you sold out to when you crossed the threshold into adulthood. But the saving grace, also known as home base, also known as the touchstone of spiritual practice, is post-critical naivete, where even knowing everything that you know, you still choose to be naive. You still choose to believe. What do I mean by naive? Believe that people are good. People are basically good. The world is basically a beautiful place. Dreams do come true. It's not all about greed. It's not all about manipulation. You have enough of a wisdom and a worldliness that you recognize this, that you're not a doormat. But I'm talking about in your spiritual practice. I'm not saying you have to walk through this world just handing out flowers to everybody and leave it at that. I'm saying in your spiritual practice, you go to the place where you believe naively that everything is working out for the best. And then you know what happens? And people will throw a fit about, I know, I can almost hear. People will be like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. You have to keep your guard up. You have to keep your armor on. And those are the same people that are saying, where is the kingdom of heaven? Does such a place really exist? You can't have it both ways. So the touchstone of this naivete, you go there, you breathe it in, you imagine a world, our organization, our national organization, international organization, because we've got Jamaica and many other places in it too, which is beautiful. You know, its motto or slogan or cut line or whatever you want to call it is, you know, creating a world that works for everyone. Creating a world that works for everyone. And that's only possible when we go to a place in spiritual practice where the world has always worked for everyone and could never not work for anyone, okay? Could never malfunction for anyone. We go there in spiritual practice and we emerge out into the world in awe. And I tell you, folks, this stuff works. This absolutely works. We got a summer coming on. You might have a beach visit on the calendar. You know, You've got to school being out. I mean, whatever it is you have to look forward to in your life, whatever it is that you have hopefulness about occurring for you, you don't want to get there and say, oh, it's not like it was. Oh, man, I got sand in my shoes again, at the beach. It's just, it rained on Tuesday or whatever. No, you want to get there like a little kid who can't sleep the night before with excitement and anticipation to get out into the world. And if you'll do that, if you practice this spiritual work, and again, I'll get more into the steps of it starting next week, though they're not hidden from you. In fact, Heartfelt Living, please, if you can, take the Heartfelt Living class starting on Tuesday nights. This is our basic class. It's not 30-minute snippets of me and the other speakers that we have on Sunday, excellent though we all are, just standing here saying blah, 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 blah. There's questions, there's engagement, there's reading, there's multiple voices in our textbook and in our workbook and so on, and you can really, really work it, and figure out if this thing is for you, so that if you do have contempt for it, it's following an investigation. But I've really not known anybody who's taken that class who's come away and said, I don't believe a word of this. At most, it's been, I got to do more work. I got to do more work on moving this from my head to my heart, which means starting with the heart first instead of with the head like we've been taught, So I wish you awe, I wish you astonishment, I wish you amazement at this beautiful life and the beautiful beings that are in it. Oh, and one last thing, when you do this, those beautiful beings come out to play. And the people who want to be your friends show up. Not the people who want to judge you or get in your way, but the people who want to be your friend and want to hang out with you, they start to show up. Oh, and the lights tend to turn green as you come along. Oh, and things just tend to fall in your favor without ever beating anybody else out of a thing. So it's not like somebody else's good gets snatched away so you can have it because you're this, deep spiritual being. There's enough for everybody. It's just all of a sudden you step into a flow. That's the payoff. But for the payoff, it's bigger than that, which is just to be in that feeling, even if nothing happened. Even if nothing changed, though of course it must. So let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence. And that life, dare I say, is awesome. It is awesome. It's filled with amazing expressions who are seeking me to come play in their space. And so I give in. I join the dance. I participate fully in a life of amazing, even astonishing circumstances and conditions. My cares are lifted, my troubles are few. And whatever I need to know to get things done, handle my needs, I'm guided to know. The information comes to me easily and effortlessly. It comes through other godlings in the spoken word. Books fall open to certain passages. Information presents itself on every screen and tablet and phone. And most of all, that still small voice and the quietness of my own being reminds me that I am of the one. I am its agent of healing. I am the experience that it is having in this world at this time through me. And because it is all there is, every step I take in any direction is a step further in spirit. I accept this, I welcome it, I give thanks for it. And I use it. I commit to myself to that higher power within me to return to this touchstone place in my life. This place of perfection and wholeness and wonder. And bring it out into the world. For this knowing and its manifestation in form, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done. And so it is.
I have many, many, many thoughts in a very short period of time to get them out, so we'll see. But starting with, I did watch the thing on the Mars helicopter, and the cool thing about it is it takes 12 minutes to get a signal from Earth to Mars. There isn't somebody with a game controller. It was programmed. But the other cool thing about that helicopter is it spins faster and the blades are designed differently because the atmosphere is different. So like there's a whole lot of really cool technology in there. And I love the fact that pretty much everybody here is a geek because we're all like, but this. So, so when Jesse was talking about it starting in the heart and then we get caught in the head, it reminded me of something that one of my classmates in ministerial school had posted yesterday. And so I'm going to read it to you now, and then I'll post it on the page after the service. It is Henry Bergson. No idea who that is, and I'm going to go look him up because I was fascinated by this quote. Fortunately, some are born with spiritual immune systems that sooner or later give rejection to the illusionary world grafted upon them from birth through social conditioning. They begin sensing that something is amiss and start looking for answers. Inner knowledge and anomalous outer experiences show them a side of reality others are oblivious to. And so begins their journey of awakening. Each step of the journey is made by following the heart instead of following the crowd, and by choosing knowledge over the veils of ignorance. So that's where we are. It does start in the heart because our heart tells us that there's something more. There's something beyond what we see. We feel it. And we go towards that. And so that is where I'm going to go right now. Into the heart. But I'm going to take my head along with me. And I encourage you to do the same. So know with me that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. That life is my life now. That life is your life now. That presence is all around me, in me, through me, as me, just as it is you. We are that love in motion. That love fills us. It comes from a place of infinity. That love comes from a place that will never run out. That love is constantly flowing. And as that love flows through each and every one of us, amazing things happen. And everyday things happen. When we infuse that love into everything we do, everything takes on that awe. When you are cooking a meal for your family, you infuse it with that love. When you're walking down the street and waving at strangers, you're infusing the world with that love. This is the world that I live in, a world where love flows unimpeded and flows into places that need it. The love's already there. It just needs to be recognized. And so as we consciously flow it in, the world becomes brighter. The world becomes better. The world becomes a world that works for everyone. And all it requires of us is to be our authentic, loving, godling selves. This is what I know. And I know it with all of the gratitude of my being, all of the gratitude that there is. And I release it, relax, and know it is so, and so it is.
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.